Hello and welcome to the Everyday Eurasia podcast, inspiring faith for every day. Each day we are on a journey with Jesus in our churches, our homes, our workplaces, and in so many different places around the world. Isn't it beautiful that no matter where we are, we can walk with Him every single day? Jesus is the one who connects us all and stands at the very center of our lives, day after day. Through this podcast, you'll hear voices from across the region, sharing devotionals that reminds us of God's presence in our everyday moments. We're joined by Monica Bossef today. Monica Bossef is the founder and executive director of the Open Door Foundation in Bucharest, Romania, a leading organization dedicated to the rescue, rehabilitation, and reintegration of survivors of human trafficking, a visionary leader and advocate for justice. Monica combines compassion with strategic action to confront one of the most pressing human rights issues of our time. Under her leadership, the Open Door has become a place of hope and restoration for women and children escaping exploitation, offering comprehensive care, education, and empowerment. Deeply rooted in her Christian faith, Monica's work reflects her unwavering belief in the inherent dignity and worth of every person, and her commitment to seeing lives transformed through love, advocacy, and grace. In this episode, she will share her incredible journey with working in a shelter. A story filled with hope, resilience, and a moment when everything seemed to go wrong, and exploring how faith and trust guide us even in the toughest time. Stay with us for an inspiring devotional and testimony you won't want to miss. First, we're gonna read Luke 12, verse 22 till 31.
Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens, they do not sow or reap, they have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wild flowers grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it, for the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. This is what urges us in Luke 12, verses 22 through 31. And it was such a good reminder for us, um, especially in the work that we have in the shelter. A few years ago, our resources ran dry, and we had $16 in all our accounts put together. Literally €2 50 and 13 lei and you know, basically it all added up to $16 in all our accounts. So I got to the shelter that morning and I told everybody, here's the situation. We don't have money for anything. We don't have money for bills. We don't have money for taxes. We don't have money for salaries, medical bills or anything, utilities. And I said, if you want to find jobs elsewhere, I'm not going to get angry. And the whole team looked at me like I was, hit in the head and said, really? Seriously, Moni? So when everything is great and everything, flows freely in abundance, all sing kumbaya. And when, dry times come around, we hit the door running. God called us in this, not you. And then I told the girls, I said, girls, I don't have money for, your weekly allocations and money for this. And so without a word, they turned around and brought down their envelopes with their savings and put them on the table and said, today is our day. It's our turn now. I said, well, let's do this, girls. You take back your money. I am so grateful for what you set your minds on doing, but we're going to go to the market in faith. And I have to tell you all, they looked at me as if I skipped my medication that morning, not having a clue what is she talking about. And so we got in the car and we went to the market. This is a market that I've been buying groceries for 30 some years now. And, I have friends there. People know that we run a foundation with social programs. Um, we got there, and the very first things that we were told by a couple that we've been buying vegetables from for years, they said, I mean, seriously, they just almost ran towards us and said, we were just going to call you this morning because, like, we woke up this morning and said, you know what? No, God put on our hearts to give you 20 pounds of potatoes and 20 pounds of onions. And the girls turned around and looked at me and said, did you talk to them? I'm like, I've been with you the whole time. I didn't talk to anybody. And then, so we got the potatoes and the onions to the car. And then a couple next to them turned around and said, oh, by the way, would you come by, see us? Because my husband came back from the countryside last night and we have two huge banana boxes, one with carrots and one with bell peppers. And we decided since last night that we're going to, give these to you. So the girls, took the banana boxes to the car, and then a young man that we're buying fruit from said, "Oh, can you stop by when you leave?" He said, "I was going to call you today because I have 20 pounds of peaches and 20 pounds of apples and 25 watermelons that I want to give to you." And then a family business in the market that sells, cold cheeses and meats, said, cold cuts and cheeses, sorry. They said, listen, come see us. And they filled bags with all the cold cuts we could have dreamed of and the cheese that we needed. And when I told them I don't have money right now, they looked at me like, when did we ever ask for money? We wanted to give this to you for some time and you never gave us a chance. So we got to the shelter, and as we're unloading the stuff, the car is full to the rim. The girls, put the stuff on the table in the kitchen, and they turned around. They said, "Ah, now we get it, Moni. This is how God looks like." I said, "No, this is one of His many facets." So I have no idea what you're going through today, how maybe you're drenched in cold sweats. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to provide for my family? And these are things that we should think of. These are things that do concern us. That's why we have jobs. That's why we have a profession. That's why we're looking for education and training so that we can provide for our families and the ministries that God has placed in our hands. But the lesson that we learned is that God already knows about all these things and all our worries. And one thing I know is that every time I was crushed by a concern or a challenge or a trial, especially in the ministry, within 24 hours, the blessings we received were 100 times bigger than the challenge and the trial, to the point where we turned like literally to each other and were like, why were we going nuts? Why were we going in circles in concern? So my encouragement is to you all is whatever you're facing today, whatever things you feel that they crush you, that suffocate you with worry, just put them down at the feet of the cross. Jesus already knows about them. He already knows the desires of your hearts. He already knows the dreams that fill you up in the morning and the things that, make you want to, take up the world. Just put them all at the feet of the cross. And the promises that He has for us, He'll always going to fulfill. Always. Not only this, but in abundance. Be blessed.
Thank you for listening to the Everyday Eurasia podcast, inspiring faith for every day. For more everyday stories, subscribe on this podcast channel, follow our socials Facebook and Instagram, or our newsletter snapshots. For our newsletter and further information about the Eurasia region, visit our website eurasiaregion.org.